So we need to be more authentic with each other.
Whole life, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Christ, Jesus, the great physician. And he was healed, and now
it's really time to reconnect with your family.
All about life, health, and healing hope.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Healing Hope from the Kettering Health Network. Today we're going to discuss how modern medicine is catching up with something that the Bible has known all along, the importance of our spiritual health. And we'll also get some fascinating insight into the power of prayer. But first, here's Lonnie Melashenko and Dr. Becky Wong.
And welcome again to Healing Hope. Dr. Rebecca Wong is my co-host. People often say that ever since Adam and Eve stopped to have lunch at the devil's fruit stand, sin, sickness, and suffering and death have been the lot of every human being ever born on this ball of mud. And there's been this tremendous dissonance, a separation. We don't tune in anymore to God. We don't even hear spiritual things.
You know, Lonnie, I think that we realize that there are a growing number of atheists in Europe and America, so secularism has crept in. But I think that those questions and that separation apply to Christians too. I've had patients and friends who make a big effort to take care of themselves. They exercise faithfully, they eat very well, even a vegan diet sometimes, and yet they come down with cancer, a late diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, and then they wonder, where was God? You know, why me? Why now? I think that there are lots of questions in people's minds about how our physical well-being and God's love for us matter here on this earth. I think, Lonnie, that the viewers today are going to be very interested in our topic. You had a recent conversation with David Vandenberg, and the two of you discussed the relationship between physical health and spiritual health and the role of prayer.
Dr. David Vandenberg, welcome to Healing Hope. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Now, today we're discussing spirituality and medicine and prayer. Tell me a little bit about your background in terms of these topics.
Well, medicine actually kind of came first because that's what I was planning to do with my life. And I was actually getting started along that journey when God tapped me on the shoulder and said, I want you to do eternal medicine instead. So,
very interesting.
Instead of going to medical school, I went to seminary. And then after seminary, I did about 35 years of pastoring various churches here and there. And had an opportunity to do some of that on campuses where there were medical schools. For example, I pastored a church on the campus of Loma Linda University for 10 years. And the medical school there at Loma Linda invited me to do some teaching there. So I got a chance to teach medical students about whole person care, and also dental students and some nursing students and others. And then after that, I came to Kettering. And of course, the church there is right on the campus of Kettering Memorial Hospital and Kettering College of Medical Arts. So I also taught while I pastored at the college, taught nursing students and physician assistant students and others. Most of that was about spirituality and healing. And then 3 years ago, I decided to do that full-time. So I have been a full-time associate professor of religion at Kettering College of Medical Arts for the last 3 years.
Now, our topic is spirituality in medicine. Is spirituality different from religion?
Yeah, I think it is. Spirituality shows up in religion, you know. One definition of religion is it's the overt practice of spirituality. So I think spirituality is something that everybody has inside of them. I think spirituality is something we have by virtue of being created in the image of God. You know, some people have described human beings as the worshiping animal. There's something inside of us that longs for meaning and value and purpose and to make touch with the greater thing that is outside of us that many people call God or the divine.
And some people think, well, when you talk about spirituality, you're talking about New Age or something like that.
Yeah, well, some people are, but not necessarily. Spirituality goes back a whole lot further than New Age, and I don't think there's ever been a time in human history when there wasn't a spiritual interest and people were not spiritual beings who were hungry to know spiritual truth.
So there's a wholeness aspect here.
Absolutely.
You can't divorce the physical from the
Absolutely.
emotional or the spiritual.
When we talk about human beings, the part that is easiest to talk about is the physical. You can see it, you can x-ray it, you can dissect it. If all else fails, you can autopsy it, But obviously, human beings are more than physical bodies. We are mental beings, we are social beings, we are emotional beings, and we are also spiritual beings.
And the medical world, in fact, medical schools seem to have quite an interest now in spirituality and medicine.
This has been a booming subject.
It wasn't always so.
It wasn't always so. I can remember the time when there were only 1 or 2 medical schools in the United States that offered any instruction in the area of spirituality and medicine.
And I'm looking, for example, here you brought a book, Spirituality and Healing in Medicine, Harvard Medical School.
This came from the Harvard Medical School annual conference on spirituality and medicine. And this is co-sponsored by Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts General Hospital. It has been done for a number of years, every year, every winter, and has brought together some of the very best and brightest minds in research and in medicine and in the realm of religion to talk about the connections.
So even secular schools are now looking very, very directly into this multiplicity of a combination. It isn't just going out there and doing some surgery or prescribing some pills. There is a bigger dimension. Well, then the topic of spiritual needs naturally leads to the discussion of prayer and wellness. Is there research out there in Harvard and other places into the effects of prayer on their well-being?
One of the most startling pieces of research is one that was published in the Southern Journal of Medicine some years ago, in which a researcher investigated the result of intercessory prayer on a population of coronary care patients. So he had a bunch of heart patients, and he asked people to pray for them, but they never met the people they were praying for, and the patients never met the people who were praying.
In other words, kind of a blind study.
It was a double-blinded study in that the patients didn't know which group they were in, and the researchers didn't know which group the patients were in. And the people who were praying didn't know the people that they were praying for.
Wow.
So they measured the results of this study in terms of how quickly the person got out of the hospital, what kind of complications they had, what kind of medications they needed.
I can't wait.
And
what happened?
The results of the study showed that prayer had a positive effect on the recovery of these coronary patients.
And they could actually study this scientifically and statistically?
Statistically, they could demonstrate that the people who were prayed for got better faster than the people who were not prayed for. Now, there have been other people who have tried to refute that study, of course, and there's been quite a bit of controversy about, the ethics of praying for some people and not praying for other people. But it's an interesting study that demonstrates not only that people who are sick need contact with something outside themselves, but also that that contact is efficacious.
We'll have more with Lonnie Melashenko and David Vandenberg after this brief break.
They actually do care about your progress. I know, when I heard that I said, yeah, okay, you hear that from a lot of schools. No, really, we do care about your success.
When I go home, I talk about Kettering because I've had such a great experience here.
If you have a commitment to going into healthcare, you're going to get there in a setting where you know your fellow students and where you know your teachers, and it's going to make you someone who I think is going to be really highly valued in the workplace.
Never again just take the perfect pregnancy for granted, because you just never know. We were 4 weeks to the day early. I immediately was just like, we can't do this. We're not ready, he's not ready. The special attention there was from the get-go. And so I knew he was going to be in good hands, because it was their child in the sense that the comfort was just there.
For more of the story, go to experiencekettering.com.
He smiles all the time. He's just, thriving. Loves his mommy and daddy.
It was just so surreal to me, because I didn't ever think I had a heart problem. Here I was 47, and they said that, I probably had about a 1% chance of making it. And I did. Kettering is known as the heart hospital, and when I see Kettering, I think that's where I got my second chance, and it feels like home.
For more of the story, go to experiencekettering.com. Kettering for life.
I knew it was serious the whole time, but it was still just unreal, and you never really soaked it in. So I was hearing all this stuff, and it sounded really bad. You can't even tell that she went through such a crisis because she's back to normal, and they said she'll eventually feel better than she did before. So I don't think they realized that they not only saved my mom, but it helped save my family.
For more of this story, go to experiencekettering.com. Kettering for life.
Welcome back to Healing Hope. Now we rejoin Lonnie Melashenko and David Vandenberg as they discuss spirituality, prayer, and medicine.
I think you went to a seminar, perhaps it was Harvard, where the professor was speaking about the discoveries of what prayer can do, and you challenged him to go a little further.
Well, I had an interesting conversation with Dr. Herbert Benson, who is actually the founder of the Benson Henry Mind-Body Institute at Harvard. Dr. Benson was a cardiologist who wanted to find a way to help his patients to get well and not suffer other heart attacks. And so he created what he called relaxation therapy to induce what he called the relaxation response, and taught people how to slow down, how to relax, how to meditate, and in order to achieve a physiological state of relaxation. And he was describing this, and he said, kind of incidentally, one of the things we haven't figured out is why it is that so many of the people that we teach the relaxation response to become interested in spiritual things. We have people saying, Dr. Benson, you taught me how to slow down and relax, and now I'm reading my Bible, I'm going back to church, or whatever it might be. He said, we haven't figured out why. So after the meeting, I went up and talked to him, and I said, I've got a theory. You know, could it be that there is a God in the universe who is constantly speaking to his children, but our lives are so noisy that most of us don't hear him until we finally slow down and get quiet and turn down the volume on the TV or the XM radio or the iPod or whatever it might be, and then we hear this still small voice. And that's the connection between spirituality and good health.
Can you give us some examples from your particular pastoral experience or teaching experience where it has significantly, profoundly turned someone around, and maybe even you saw someone get well who otherwise maybe it wouldn't have happened?
Well, one of the things that we talk about and try to help students understand is that prayer is not magical, that God is not a vending machine, you know, and that you don't put your prayer in and push the right buttons and get your answer, you know. That prayer is not, as most people think, besieging God, trying to convince him that he should give us what we've already decided we want. That what prayer really is a process of coming in contact with God and listening to what God has to say, and eventually, hopefully, getting onto God's agenda rather than your own. It's a way of getting in touch with the heart and the mind of God and of listening.
Well, while we're talking about prayer, how do you deal with people who say, I pray, I take the Bible promises, but I'm not cured, I didn't get well?
Very big question for so many people who really feel abandoned, or that God is angry with them or hasn't listened to their prayer. And you can, I think, make a clear case from Scripture that anybody who prays for healing experiences healing, but not everybody gets cured. As an illustration, I know a man who has since died of the cancer that he was diagnosed with some years ago. And he told me towards the end of his life, I would not wish this disease on anybody. It's been horrible. But I wish that everybody could experience the kind of healing that I've experienced during the time I've been struggling with cancer. He found healing in his own personal relationship with God. He found healing in his relationship with his wife. He found healing in his larger family with people that he was estranged from. He didn't get cured, but he did get healed. And that crucial distinction is a deeply spiritual insight.
Now, Doctor, as an instructor at the Kettering College of Medical Arts, how do you advise your students in terms of dealing with the spiritual side of healthcare when they may not even have spirituality in their own personal, private lives?
Well, one of the reasons we require them to take religion courses is because we hope that we're going to be able to fortify their spirituality and help them to recognize that the only way that they're going to be able to do the job that is being asked of them of entering into human experience and walking through human tragedy is to be spiritually strong themselves. Years ago, I did an interesting study in which we measured the empathy scores using a psychological test of people in healthcare, and we discovered that the longer they were in healthcare, the lower their empathy score went. And it's fairly obvious why, but if people are going to remain caring, compassionate, empathetic caregivers, then they're going to have to find a way to deal with the human tragedy that doesn't destroy their own hearts. And, you know, we think about Proverbs 4:23 and take it seriously. Above all else, guard your heart, for from it flow the well springs of life. And so we want to say to students, the first thing you need to do is take care of your own heart. You need to be spiritually wise and healthy in your own right.
Does that alarm or frighten or concern some folks?
Some of them it does, but you know, in most cases, people are quick to recognize that spirituality is a part of the human experience.
And of course, the whole Kettering Health Network is part of a faith-based health delivery system.
Absolutely. It's no surprise to them that when they come to college at Kettering College of Medical Arts, we're going to be talking to them about Jesus Christ, we're going to be talking about the gospel, we're going to be talking about the Bible, we're going to be talking about the role that religion plays in somebody's life and how it enables them to be a better caregiver and to continue the healing ministry of Jesus.
Now, do people say to you, well, doctor, isn't it kind of intrusive to be asking individuals about their spiritual background? Isn't that very personal?
Yeah, I especially got this from medical students out at Loma Linda, and I get it also from physician assistant students at Kettering. And they will say things like, I will never talk to somebody about their own spirituality or their religious practices. I just wouldn't do that. That's too intrusive. And I usually smile and say, so you'll stick your fingers into all kinds of private places and you don't think that's too intrusive, but you won't ask somebody whether God plays any role in their life? You think that's too intrusive? You know, we have this mythology in America that things like spirituality and religion are kind of so private that they are off limits for anybody. And I think part of that is because we do recognize that this is a very private and personal part of our lives, but we also, I think, have an unwarranted squeamishness about it because we don't like to be challenged about our own thoughts about this.
Very, very interesting. A person who comes into the emergency room all battered and beaten and obviously perhaps abused might have some other issues than just the bandages and the ice packs.
That's right. And one of the things that has been so exciting is that in the last couple of decades, there's just been tremendous research done on the connections between spirituality/religion and health/medicine. Studies have been done that have looked at mental illness and religious practice. Those who practice their faith, who practice their spirituality, have less depression, they have less anxiety. People who practice their spirituality in the form of religion recover faster from heart surgery. They have fewer complications after coronary artery bypass surgery. People who practice their spirituality in the form of religion, which may be as simple as going to church once in a while, or reading the Bible once in a while, or praying to God once in a while. People who practice their spirituality have less mental and physical illness. They recover faster, they enjoy life more, they live longer, and these can be documented and shown to be effective in the same way that exercise, for example, exerts a protective effect on a person's life.
So when you go to the hospital emergency room and the doctor has the priest or the rabbi or the chaplain come by, don't panic, this isn't last rites.
That's right.
He
You're not ready to bury you.
There's a dimension here that we need to blend these together.
That's right.
I appreciate very much you talking to us today about spirituality and healing in medicine, because this is all about healing hope.
It's a privilege to be here. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it.
Appreciate you coming.
You're welcome.
Stay tuned for tips for healthy living with Dr. Becky Wong and some final words from Lonnie.
Over a century ago, a brilliant young Dayton inventor had a vision for the future.
By itself! You know, this Kettering guy just might change the world.
Today, that same spirit lives on at the Kettering Medical Center Network, bringing the best in medical technology from around the world home to Dayton. With that kind of vision for the future, what might tomorrow bring?
Those guys just might change the world.
You can only imagine. The Kettering Network, for life.
If I'm going to be a healthcare provider and if people are going to come to me and trust me, then I want to give them the best care that I possibly can.
I love it. It's great. The classroom sizes are awesome. You get that personal one-on-one time, even in class.
They taught well, and I learned well, and they really truly cared.
The philosophy of Kettering College of Medical Arts is such that our view of who we are as people means that when we care for others, we are doing the work of God. We are God's hands.
It was just so surreal to me because I didn't ever think I had a heart problem. You know, here I was 47 and they said that, you know, I probably had about a 1% chance of making it. And I did. Kettering is known as the heart hospital, and when I see Kettering, I think that's where I got my second chance, and it feels like home.
For more of the story, go to experiencekettering.com. Kettering for life.
I knew it was serious the whole time, but it was still just unreal, and you never really soaked it in. So I was hearing all this stuff, and it sounded really bad. You can't even tell that she went through such a crisis because she's back to normal. They said she'll eventually feel better than she did before. So I don't think they realized that they not only saved my mom, but it helped save my family.
For more of the story, go to experiencekettering.com. Kettering for life.
Do you want to take better care of yourself? Of course you do. But maybe you resolve to make big changes in order to get healthier on January 1, but have found yourself failing somewhere between day 2 and day 3. Making big changes all at once can be very difficult, but there are small steps you can take for a healthier lifestyle that can really make a big difference. You didn't think I was going to suggest eating more, did you? But studies have shown that increasing your fruit or vegetable intake by just one serving a day can have a significant impact on your health. Next, please pass the salt. Or maybe not. The New England Journal of Medicine had a study that estimates that 40 to 90,000 people in the U.S. every year die because of excessive intake of salt. On average, Americans ingest about 10 grams of salt a day, and 10 grams of salt a day is almost 2 teaspoons. You may not realize you're eating that much because you say, I actually don't put salt on my food. But that's where the fallacy is. Salt is present in processed foods. You think, well, I don't eat chips, but I do love soup. All canned soups are very, very high in salt. Meats, especially like cured meats, smoked turkey, chicken, all of that has, or even veggie meats, veggie hot dogs have very high levels of salt. And these levels of salt can push up your blood pressure, which raises your risk of heart disease and stroke. So instead of the full 2 teaspoons of salt that most people have in their diet, we really need to cut from 10 grams down to 3 grams, which would be a half teaspoon, considerably less than what most of us are eating. And now let's get a tip from the good book. The wisdom from the book of Proverbs says, a cheerful heart is good medicine. This turns out to be more than a metaphor. People with a positive attitude suffer less from heart disease and stroke. You don't have to become a long-distance runner or a treadmill junkie to increase your cardiovascular health. Just put on a comfortable pair of shoes and take a walk. You can start with a walk around the block, or in bad weather, walk in a mall. Each week add 10 minutes, and before you know it, you'll be up to an hour a day. Make the stairs your personal exercise equipment. Exercise is the best thing you can do to strengthen your heart, boost your metabolism, improve your mood and confidence. While it is important to protect our skin from overexposure to the sun, getting out in the sunshine is a great natural health boost. The sun's rays on the skin help your body produce vitamin D, which has been shown to fight heart disease, depression, osteoporosis, and even some types of cancer. A study by the University of North Carolina found that hugging your spouse for 20 seconds, just 20 seconds, could lower blood pressure and reduce levels of the stress hormone cortisol. High levels of cortisol have been linked to heart disease and other conditions such as diabetes. Have a sense of purpose by giving some of your time to those in your community that need a helping hand and friendly smile. Offer a few hours to a ministry at your church, your local hospital, soup kitchen, or senior citizen center. It'll make a big difference not only in your life, but the lives of others. It's very important to stay hydrated, especially in hot weather. Drink fresh water throughout the day. Not only is it good for you, it also helps you feel full, making it easier to cut down on snacking. All of these small changes carry with them big benefits. So pick a couple of these small steps, and you'll find yourself down the road to better health. For Healing Hope, I'm Dr. Becky Wong.
If you're looking for help, not hype, you'll find a powerhouse in the resource of prayer. Even non-faith-based hospitals and medical schools are now discovering the power of prayer, the incredible reservoir of faith, that there's healing hope in divine aid. Alcoholics Anonymous, chemical dependency programs for addicts, even medical schools and universities all across the nation, they all realize that prayer is the key in the hand of faith to unlock heaven's storehouse. There's healing power in prayer. So whatever your faith, whatever your religious background or that of your friends and acquaintances, there is an enormous value in reaching out and praying for each other. It brings understanding. It disarms prejudice. It calms our fears. It provides hope, healing hope. Through prayer, we call on the great physician himself, who is too wise to make a mistake, too good to be unkind. I'm reminded of something I learned in a British high school when I was studying English literature growing up in the islands of Bermuda, that the greatest words in all of literature were written by Moses, found in an incredible promise in Deuteronomy 33:27, where it says, "The eternal God is our refuge," and then these words, "and underneath are the everlasting arms." Friend, you can trust those arms. Lean on those arms. Rely on Him through prayer. Those arms will never let you go. Put your whole weight in them and find healing hope. Thanks for joining us. For Kettering Health Network, I'm Lonnie Melashenko.